And the floor is yours, Jennifer.
Great. Thank you very much, Dallas. Welcome this evening. We are holding a follow-up neighborhood meeting for the proposed annexation and concept plan at 8513 St. Vrain Avenue, otherwise known as the corner of 9th and Airport. With us this evening, we have Kristen Cody, who is the senior planner who is managing this project. So she will talk a little bit more about the project specifics in terms of where it is exactly in the process. We also have Jack Bestall, who is the applicant, who will describe what has been happening to date with the concept plan and discuss adjustments to the development program moving forward. And as always, we have Dallas Stiles, who is our digital video live stream specialist, who keeps everything running smoothly. With that, next slide. All right, so tonight we're going to talk, we've already done our introductions. In terms of the meeting agenda, the meeting overview and format, process overview, applicant presentation, we'll talk about what the next steps are. And then we will open the floor for public comments and questions. Next slide. So in terms of the meeting format, this is a live stream neighborhood meeting. So this slide will be placed on the screen again. So the format is you are viewing this video, this live stream neighborhood meeting through our YouTube channel. And once we have finished giving our presentations and discussions, we will take a 5-minute break, which will give participants time to call in using this information. Again, this slide will be up again, and it will stay up for the duration of the 5-minute break. So, and then when we come back to that 5-minute break, we will then take folks one at a time. Dallas will call you by the last 3 digits of your phone number, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. And next slide. So as most folks are aware, we are again discussing this long, narrow parcel at the northeast corner of 9th Avenue and Airport Road. It is roughly 4.17 acres. It is more or less a county enclave in that it is surrounded on a couple of sides by incorporated city of Longmont. It is on the Airport Road does form, at least this portion of the city forms at the western boundary of our growth area, of the planning area, I should say. Next slide. All right, so in terms of project and process overview, we did an annexation referral by City Council back in August. We held the pre-application with the applicant pre-application meeting in November. There was an original, the first neighborhood meeting was held shortly thereafter. And currently we have an application under review and we are here tonight. I'll let Kristen talk a little bit about where we are in terms of the review process and you know how many cycles that we've been looking at, and talk a little bit about the next steps in the process.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. So with this application, we have the required neighborhood meeting in January of 2023, and that is required by code before an applicant can submit a formal application to the city. Once that was held, the applicant did submit that formal application. It was submitted on February 10th of 2023. Thus began the review process with the city. That is referred to as the DRC process, which is the Design Review Committee process. That commences the process of review by planning, engineering, public works, drainage, Longmont Power, communications, and a few other individual city staff departments. We also do send out notice in regards to that, notice of application under review, and the signage is posted on the site at that time, just to let individuals know that we have a current active application being considered by the city. That went through its first round of DRC review. Once that occurs, we then redline the documents, which means we review them against city code and take note of items that need to be considered, reviewed, or changed. And we send those back to the applicant. That first set of red lines were sent back to the applicant approximately April 14th of 2023. And we have not yet received an additional submittal. So we are waiting an additional submittal going forward. Once we receive an additional submittal, those will also be reviewed through the DRC process until such a point when they are considered acceptable for public hearings. Then they will at that point be remitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a public hearing, they will then make a recommendation on this annexation and concept plan application, and it will then go to City Council for a final determination. Following that process, dependent upon the outcome at City Council, this site would have to go through, given approval of applications, the preliminary plat process, final plat process, site plan review process, and public improvement plan process. Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. So as demonstrated, we still have a ways to go in this process. So we're still in the very early stages. Next slide. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jack Bestall to talk more specifically about the project and where it is from his standpoint.
Thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate people participating this evening and looking forward to hearing your comments and having some discussion. I think we all know where the project is, along the northeast corner of 9th and the Airport Road. Next. As has been outlined by Kristen, we're really at step 2 of this lengthy process and thorough review of this project. We've had the pre-application on the far left, number 1. And frankly, we've gone through a lot of interesting discussion at step 2, and then the rest would roll out. But it's not unusual in my experience. This can be a 1.5 to 2 year process to get to final plat, shorter to get to an annexation decision. But we think that our investment in this makes sense, and we are continuing in the process. Next slide, please. We've had the 3, I think of these as 3 neighborhood meetings. The first one, January 12th, was streamed, and we were presented the first concept plan. We had an informal meeting, which turned into, I don't know, maybe 14, 15 people at the planning office that Tom Smith asked for, and I acquiesced and was interested to meet with all the people that attended that, and I thank you for coming out. That was in April. In June, here we are now, but I would just emphasize that this process, at the end of the day, having gone through these in a number of jurisdictions in the Western United States, it really leads to a transparent and equitable process, and it's for all parties. It's not something that can be controlled by one person or by one group, and that allows for some equity in the process. And I think it allows each person to be listened and to be heard. If anything, the applicant, that's me, may be more constrained, simply because there's significant and important controls on who and how I can speak to decision makers and others as part of the ex parte policy and state law. And so at this point, these are my opportunities. Next slide, please. We listened and we heard a number of things, and I've kind of summarized those to give you some feedback. But Champion Green's concerns, as expressed in the first neighborhood meeting, there were several statements said that they were not aware, never made aware of the vision process and the zoning change of the area, including Champion Greens and the St. Vrain's property. There was a lot of discussion and kind of demands placed on the applicant regarding the compliance that we must comply with the Envision Longmont and municipal code. We've never intended not to. And we also heard a lot about public health and welfare, everything from flooding to density causing crime. And so I just want to let you know that we've heard a lot of those, and we understand that there are concerns of Champion Greens. The envision process, to have missed that, and after all of the advertising, all the public notice, 5-6 years ago, I don't know how to explain that, but it certainly was not only legally done, but there was a tremendous outreach with many residents involved. As I said, St. Vrain, whatever we do on St. Vrain, if in fact we're annexed, it'll comply with Envision Longmont and municipal code. And currently, based on the pre-application review, there should be no resultant health or public safety concerns with this project, or frankly, it wouldn't be approved. Next slide, please. The Envision Longmont in 2018 showed this property and the Champion Greens property as residential mixed neighborhood. Which basically the difference there is there's an allowance for more density and for attached units, single family attached residential. Go ahead, please. Our goals, the St. Vrain plan goals, are to develop a quality residential project and to conform to the Envision Longmont framework, the policies, the goals, conform with the development code, and to conform to the residential mixed neighborhood zone. Next. In the first meeting 1, this is the concept that we used for discussion at that meeting. It was a single family attached project. It had 57 residential units, which would have required 7 affordable units. And that was about a 12.7 dwelling units, or what we say in the business, DUs per acre. Next, please. There was, regarding concerns for traffic, which were also expressed. At the time of sale, when your units were purchased with the plat for Champion Greens, the plat showed access between the two properties. The final plat, and this is I think the phase 1, there was an additional cul-de-sac at the east end added, which I didn't include. It had about 83 lots and about a 4.4 DU per acre. And I'm using some of this later for an exhibit. There's a sample area of about 6.9 DUs per acre. Next slide, please. This is the plat. It shows Champion Circle and Doral Drive connecting to the west to the Renke property. And it also shows the 83 units. Next, please. Just a slide showing Doral Drive, where it goes west to the edge of the property at the wall there, at the fence. You can also see the housing at Champion Greens, very nice neighborhood, and the existing the existing trees. And I think this is probably fall, or at least during the winter with the leaves off, probably heading into fall. Next slide. This shows Champion Circle. There's a pickup truck, if you can look under the trees there, which is down by where the access goes through the fence, as the plat had planned and the city had approved it. Next slide, please. There was also concerns about the scale and the compatibility, and specifically about views. Dallas, can you go back one slide? Even with the leaves off the trees and the trees on both sides, currently there are no views to the west. Okay, let's go forward again, please. Compatible building standards. The standards for RMN, mixed neighborhood, are very similar to residential single family. The difference would be if you have an attached unit, there's no setback, obviously, with a duplex or a townhome, they connect, there's 0. The height is similar, 35 feet. At Champion Greens, you currently have 35-foot capability, both by zone, RSF, and by your covenants allow that. Setbacks, I think, are actually more in RMN than what was allowed at Champion Greens. I think there's maybe a 3-foot setback or something pretty small. It's 5 foot is standard in RMN. So the primary difference really is RMN allows attached units. Next, please. Here you can see, and there's not very many of these, but here you can see 3 residential units at Champion Greens. The outside units, left and right, are 2-story. They're probably 22, 24 feet high. And then the one in the middle is a 1-story. And I think all of these have full basements from what I understand. So these are not 35 feet, but they could be. And other units over time could have pop tops or others if they were to go through a building process, at least from what I read in the Champion Greens covenants. Go ahead, please. This is a view looking west. Again, you can see the tree line on the Renke property at St. Vrain. And this shows a wider gap between the houses here at Champion Greens. And that's because there's actually an easement that goes between these 2 houses, which maybe creates 12 feet. So this is really one of the few kind of building to building setbacks that I saw that was closer to what is required in RMN, for example. And the end of view. Next slide. Tonight, I want to show you what I'm calling Meeting 3 concept plan. And this is a concept plan that we've put together based on the concerns we've heard from Champion Greens, and something that we think is viable on this property and that we could still do with good quality. It shows, if you look at the graphic, and I realize this is a little challenging, but north, I like to have north always up, so it makes the exhibit a little bit smaller, but you can see the black and white Champion Greens on the right or the east side. You can see a green north-south or up and down strip there. That's the 26-foot outlot, which would remain an outlot, no building there. There would be about a 42-foot right-of-way for sidewalk and street section and utilities. That's the north-south white. You can see also the east-west or the left-right connections where they were planned in the plat at Doral and Champion Circle. And then on the left or the west side, that's where the residential units would be. And we've indicated here a mix of both single family and attached units, single family detached and attached units, and a range. We think that there's probably, because this is a 2-year process, plus or minus, we think that the range is a good way to approach this. So it'll be approximately 33 to 43 residential units, which would require 4 to 6 affordable units, about 12%, and they would be a part of this residential mix. That puts it at a density of about 7.3 to 9.5 dwelling units per acre, DU per acre. And just below that, you can see, so the maximum we're proposing at this stage to submit to the city for a formal application would be 43 residential units, as opposed to the 57, which we brought to you in the first meeting. And the top density would be 9.5 as opposed to 12.7 dwelling units per acre, but it could be as low as 7.3 or in that range. So 33 to 43 units. And then the green strip you see going north-south or up and down on the west is the 20-foot buffer along the airport road. Next slide, please. This is a bigger snapshot here. And so the pattern language here on the right, you can see Champion Greens. And I've just put these exhibits side by side. And you can see how on the right, you see the yellow, which are the lots, the green. Now the green there is 15 feet on the right side of the property line of Champion Greens, which is your rear yard setback. On the left side, you can see the 26-foot outlot in green, and then there's a sidewalk, which is also a part of the right of way there. And that's that orange color, just like the sidewalks in Champion Greens. Then if you move a little bit to the middle, I guess, of this exhibit, you'll see kind of beige and yellow lots. So the beige, the way we're seeing this would be attached units. So the narrower lots or development envelopes would be paired homes. And the whiter ones, there's a couple there, would be a triplex. And then the yellow would be single family detached. We're taking advantage of a narrower lot configuration because of the affordable housing incentive for the single family detached. On the left, the left graphic, you can see again going up and down the green foliage adjacent Champion Greens in the white. And there's some cars parked there on the street. You've got the sidewalk. And then you've got the street, and then going further, so I'm working right to left. You see the houses, and you can see the wider ones being the triplexes. There's some gable roofs there that are paired homes, and then there's some single family detached as you go farther to the bottom. There's 3 you can see, I think, there. So that's really the pattern language that we're thinking about, and that's the dimensioning, which we believe meets code and we believe would provide a very serviceable, high quality community at St. Vrain. Next slide. So in comparison, and we can't really compare, in a proper way to Champion Greens, and it's a great place. We understand it's a really excellent neighborhood. I took just a slice out of the neighborhood. You can see on the right, the yellow is the right of the north-south property line. You can see the yellow lots, and if I just took that area, it's actually around 6.9 dwelling units to the acre. That part of that is because the open space is not included, which is just to the east of this. But this is what immediately abuts the St. Vrain property. And then there's like 31 residential units, no affordable units, 6.9 to the acre. On the refined concept plan, just to the left of the property line, you can see that would be 7.3, 9 to 9.5 dwelling units per acre in that 33 to 43 range, just so you kind of get a side-by-side comparison of, I'm trying to communicate clearly what we're talking about. Next slide. This is that 15-foot rear yard setback along the west property line at St. Vrain, with some of the vegetation on both sides of both St. Vrain and of Champion Greens. So that's part of where the buffer would start to the right on the other side of this vegetation. And I wanted to point out that there's really are no views to the west. Next slide, please. This is a quick dimensioning which shows that from a building to building setback, the purple underline there, from the St. Vrain home to a Champion Greens home is about 103 feet. And that line goes right through at the 30-foot, call it a buffer, the 26-foot outlot, landscape vegetation buffer, and so forth. The squiggly arrows there between lots 3 and 4 at Champion Greens shows, I'm actually showing 10-foot, and I believe it's closer to about 8-foot building to building, probably a variance, or maybe that was a standard when this was done for Champion Greens, but it's a very narrow building to building dimension. So just to point out that, in terms of what is required and what the relationship is going to be between the new St. Vrain homes and the current Champion Greens homes, it's much bigger than your existing condition of homes at Champion Greens. Next slide. So one of the goals, one of the 3 or 4 things we really wanted to accomplish as for St. Vrain was we really wanted to be conforming, and that's what really, frankly, has attracted us to Longmont and why I enjoy being in Longmont and being a part of it. The Envision Longmont plan was far-reaching. It went beyond what is currently there and says, let's do what we can to not only protect but enhance the neighborhoods. Part of what we have to do is cut down on energy consumption, be more sustainable, have projects that pay their way, because lower density projects don't pay for total services and retail sales tax as much as we need. We have limited areas to grow. It talks about affordable housing and attainable housing. So some of these are really what has framed our work on the St. Vrain project. Locating development in an area of change, which this has been designated, developing a livable neighborhood along a major route like Airport Road or 9th, developing new diversified housing mix. The community during the 2018, 2019, 2020 process really realized they needed to have different housing opportunities for a wider range of people to both stay and to be able to work in Longmont for workforce housing and so forth. So provide an opportunity for home ownership, affordable units, being able to develop equity for people that have less than others, plan for energy conservation, zero. I think that the target now is 0 carbon footprint by 2030, and increase overall city density to achieve sustainability, which I touched on earlier. So I think that the St. Vrain plan is very much in conformance and compliant with some of these, with all of these policies in the Envision Longmont plan. Next slide, please. So in terms of the response to the concerns, which we've talked about, this is the concerns from Champion Greens that we picked up on. The meeting 3 concept plan is outlined above, but as it relates to scale and compatibility, views and traffic, the reduction we're suggesting from the meeting 1 plan is about, well, at the least it's 33 dwelling units, and at the most it'd be 43. So for 25 to 42%. The maximum increase in traffic, we've heard numbers that are just incorrect. And, I understand, I was at one of the planning commissions where there was a number of people, I think Tom Smith was leading the group, who was talking to the planning commission. I was there on another project, and just some of the information was very erroneous, I would suggest. The traffic increase under this plan could be, the maximum would be 34%. In other words, if we were to develop 43 units and we added that to the existing 83, it's about 34% of the total traffic in that. And typically attached units have fewer trips than single family detached units. The development standards are comparable in terms of height, in terms of setback. We would probably have more requirements for greater setbacks than maybe is what's been done at Champion Greens. Still to be investigated. Buffer, we have a very strong buffer along the property line with Champion Greens. Building to building distance is very significant. The views really are to the north, not to the west from Champion Greens. And I can't help myself sometimes as a former architect. Compatibility does not always mean doing the same design. Compatibility can be reached in a number of ways. In this case, the development standards are the same, and the architecture may be different, but the buffers and the building to building distances certainly set up a very strong case for a compatible development. I think that may be the last one. I appreciate the opportunity to go through this with you, and I really look forward to questions and comments.
Thanks, Jack. We've already talked a little bit about next steps. So Dallas, I think we can switch skip this slide and the next slide. There you go. Let's go one more. All right, so we're getting ready for public comment. Some ground rules with regard to public comment. These are nothing new. We had these same ground rules at the previous neighborhood meeting. You get 3 minutes. Every speaker who calls in will get 3 minutes. Same rules as city council. We cannot have, we really don't want you to go over, and we will cut time at 3 minutes just because we want to be equitable. Want you to state your name and where you live. Ask that you do keep your questions and comments related to the current proposal that we're discussing tonight. Be additive, not repetitive. If someone says something that you agree with, rather than repeating it, just say, I agree with what's been said. That way your voice is heard, but we aren't repeating constantly. And most importantly, no personal attacks. We're all adults in the room here, so I think it's important to be respectful of everyone who's here. With that, we'll take the call-in slide. So Dallas, I will let you take it away.
Sure thing, Jennifer. So yeah, we're going to have 5 minutes here for callers to chime in. That number is 1-888-788-0099. When you get in, the meeting ID it'll ask you for is 846-8579-0054. So you're going to type that in. Once you are in, it'll put you in a waiting room. At the end of the 5-minute break, we're going to bring people in. I'm then going to relock the meeting. So make sure you get in before the 5 minutes. And yeah, make sure that before you go, you mute your live stream. So that way we're not getting a feedback loop. You should be able to hear me through your phone or whatever device you're calling in on. Great. With that, we're going to go offline for 5 minutes. Thanks.
Great. See everyone here in 5 minutes.
For folks on our live stream, we've got about a minute left to call in. If you haven't called in yet, again, that number is 1-888-788-0099. When you're there, please enter the meeting ID 846-8579-0054. We will admit people to start asking questions in about 30 seconds. All right, and with that, that is our 5 minutes. So we do have a couple callers. And so for callers that are on the line, I am going to address you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. Jennifer said before, you're going to state your name and your address so that we have you for the record. And then, yeah, you're going to get 3 seconds on the clock. I'll give you a warning when you're at the 30-second mark and the 15-second mark. And otherwise, feel free to state your comments. Give me just a second. We got a couple more coming in here, so I've got to write these down.
So as Dallas noted, everyone has 3 minutes.
Yep. Great. So with that, we're going to start taking callers. Callers, remember, make sure your live stream is muted so we're not getting that feedback between the two. And my first caller tonight is caller 418. Caller with the last 3 digits, 418. Please hit *6 on your device to unmute.
Hi,
Hello.
this is Carla Brown. Hello. Can I
Hey,
go?
Carla. Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, Carla Brown, and from the city of Longmont. And so I have several questions. I'll try to be quick. In terms of the height of the proposed structures, we are still at the 35-foot height, approximately 3 stories with like a tuck under garage. Is that correct?
That's correct for some of the units. It wouldn't be correct for all of the units. We just aren't that far enough along to give you that exact detail.
And I will also,
Okay.
I'll also follow up with that, just to clarify that 35 feet is the maximum height that is allowed in our residential single family, as well as our residential mixed neighborhood zoning districts.
Okay, thank you. And then following on, my other question is, what will be the approximate price point of these units? I assume these are for sale, or are they for lease?
Okay, to go ahead, Jennifer. Just take it. I mean,
As far as for sale or for lease?
no, do you want me to answer now? Is
Yes,
that okay?
please. Yes, if it's project
Okay.
specific, please take it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, these are meant for sale. Okay, that's our intention. And price point wise, you know, I think you may have heard me say this before. I don't usually quote prices at this stage. We could still be in a recession, we could be out of a recession. And it just, you know, it's just it comes back to haunt you, and it raises people's expectations. I think you probably know that, you know, I think residential units now are averaging $320 a foot, new units. So if you do the math, I mean, if you assume 2,800 square feet by way of an example for livable space, you can get to a number pretty quickly. I just don't know exactly, because we're a year and a half away from really understanding if we do get annexed, what our pricing and what our residential mix may be. And I hope you can understand that.
Certainly, thank you. And then my last question is regarding the landscaping. Obviously, this landscape buffer is extremely important for those who have property, particularly along that western boundary of Champion Greens. Are you going to be able to maintain any of the existing landscaping and the mature trees? there in your current plan?
Yes, we are. And that would be our intention, is to, we will look at them for how healthy they are, location, safety, walk through the whole thing, see what the mix is, or maybe some alien species there. But, I think our goal would be to maintain, based on some of those conditions, maintain some of the existing trees, sure.
Very good. And the last one, can we get a copy of your presentation?
I think it'll be available at the city, correct?
Sure, you can contact city staff. This particular YouTube, this neighborhood meeting is being recorded and will stay on our city YouTube channel as well.
Thank you very much.
So I do want to make one clarifying point. So where the applicant or staff do jump in and answer questions, the clock is paused so that everyone does get a full 3 minutes. So the clock is only running when people are asking questions or making comments. With that, next person.
Great. Thanks, Carla. We're going to go on to our next caller with the last 3 digits, 122. Caller 122, please hit *6 on your device to unmute. Caller with the last 3 digits of their phone number, 122, please hit *6 on your device to unmute. All right, we're going to come back to you, 122. We're going to, oh, there you are. Hello.
Hello, this is Carrie Autry and Chuck Autry. We live at 926 Champion Circle in Champion Greens.
Thank you. Go right ahead and please mute that live stream in the background. We're getting a little bit of feedback there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go right ahead.
This is Carrie Autry and Chuck Autry, 926 Champion Circle in Champion Greens. Thank you so much for the presentation today. It seems that it's great that you have taken into consideration many of the comments that were made by the folks here in Champion Greens. My first comment would be, we believe our streets here in Champion Greens are narrower than many other streets that have through traffic in the city of Longmont. And I just wonder how much consideration we've given to the safety of this much additional traffic on our streets, as well as in the cul-de-sac where you enter your property on the north side. And my second comment would be, I hope that as the development continues, you would give some consideration to changing the density to be something closer to what we currently have in Champion Greens. Thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, we're going to keep on going to our next caller, with the last 3 digits of their phone number, 144. Caller 144, if you would please hit *6 to unmute. Caller with the last 3 digits, 144, please hit *6 to unmute. Okay, we're going to keep going. Caller with the last 3 digits, 489. Caller 489, if you would hit *6 on your device to unmute, please. Hey there. Can you hear us, 489?
Hello? Yes.
Perfect. Could you state your name and address, please?
My name is Richard Bueller. I'm at 950 Champion Circle.
Thanks, Richard. Go for it.
You have mentioned in the past, at the last public meeting that we've had, about the safety of our streets. The previous caller brought up that safety, and I want to know, the city of Longmont has had a major concern about speed limits, and how are you going to address it? I specifically want to know because we have an elderly community where many people walk very slowly, including myself, and I have an ADA problem in terms of being handicapped. I want to know whether you would consider putting up lights that people can press that would stop traffic immediately. If you are still planning to use the entrances on 9th Street to enter our property, whether the crosswalks at those entrances would have lights that we could stop the traffic if people are crossing. I'd like to have an answer to that.
We will, we're going to answer these questions at once folks have finished, simply because I'm starting to hear some common themes. So if you wouldn't mind just holding for one moment, we will answer these questions momentarily.
Okay. Those are the major concerns that I have in terms of the safety of the residents of our property. I do have other questions, but I don't know if this is an appropriate time to ask them. Since still my time, I'd like to know, since we pay HOA fees to the common ground area, whether this new property would have access to that common ground area, or whether we can keep this area private. Jennifer, I cannot hear you.
She's muted right now. Richard, you got about 20 seconds. We're going to respond to those questions after our last caller. You're the second to last one.
Okay, then
Do you have any other questions?
Done, and I know. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Richard. All right, and we are going to go to our last caller with the last three digits, 144. Caller 144, if you're there, please hit *6 on your device to unmute. Hello, can you hear us? Right, and we are going to go to our last caller. I can hear your live stream. Do you mind muting that in the background? Caller 144, *6.
Yes, 144 is here.
Great. Would you please mute your live stream and then state your name and address for the record?
Mute my.
The live stream that you're watching us on. So we're talking through the phone right now. Mute that guy in the background so I'm not hearing myself talk through the feedback.
Is it better?
It's better, yes.
Okay.
Great.
My name is Jack Soki. I live at 1061 Champion Circle. I am right behind the property, so it concerns me the most.
Yeah, go ahead.
Question. I did have I see there's a significant improvement in the plan which was submitted today compared to what we had before, and I still have a question regarding, are you going to do another traffic study based on what you have new plan? That's one, because we like that to be done, because I think the previous traffic study was erroneous, and it didn't use the correct assumptions, and so I'd like to see that. A second question I have is, what is the width of this buffer between the street and the fence we have at the Champion Greens? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Do
Yeah.
you have any other questions?
Another question is that what is the assumption that people will come from Doral and they'll go through the new subdivision and go out from the other end, or is it going to be a two-way streets? And that's all I had.
Thank you much. So that was our last caller. So feel free, Jennifer and Jack, to respond to any questions.
Do you mind if I start, Jennifer, or how
Go
would
for
you
it.
like? Jack, it's good to hear from you, first of all. I love that name. You had 3 questions. Will there be a new traffic study? Yes, absolutely. It is required and it needs to sync with the plan. And it's likely this would be the plan that we would move forward with and would resubmit. It's not been submitted yet because we wanted to have another neighborhood meeting to review the plan before we did so. So there will be a new traffic study. The last one was reviewed by the city, and the next one will be as well. The width of the buffer is about 30 feet along the west edge of Champion Greens. And then yes, the street would be two-way, I think was your third question. Would the street through St. Vrain be two-way? The answer is yes to that. And I appreciate the fact that you think it's a significant improvement. The caller before, Richard, he had several questions. He was concerned about safety, speed limits, the fact that there's an elderly aspect to the community in Champion Greens. He has ADA concerns, and then we talked about, and then he was wondering about lighting. At this stage, Richard, we absolutely are concerned about safety, and we're concerned about how that will be addressed, like in all projects. And what has to happen to get to that stage is for us to see first if we get annexed, and then during that process there may be some conditions or whatever that are applied to the concept plan. Then the details of that, whether it's traffic calming or lighting or whatever it may be, those will be worked out with City of Longmont engineering and what they think is appropriate in terms of speed limit signs or whatever that is. So I think that's just knowing where we are in the process. We have kind of wobbled and backed into an eddy along the stream on step 2. And instead of having one neighborhood meeting, we've had 3, and we're working. So now we're going to kind of move forward based on the comments this evening. I think your last question was about the fact that you have open space amenity in Champion Greens, and there's HOA fees that go to that. That's obviously private. It's owned by your HOA. I don't have a great answer for you in terms of how do you restrict it and keep it only for Champion Greens use. Obviously, various HOAs deal with that in different ways, putting up signs, St. Vrain telling its people and telling them that, that's a it's a non-starter to trespass on that property, on the private open space area. But, I don't have a real clean answer for you on that, but I do understand it's a concern, and we'd have to work something out that was actually practical in order for it to be effective and protect your HOA's amenity. That's all I have, Jennifer.
Great. Yeah, so on the open space, on your amenity space front, as Jack indicated, I mean, the most common approach I've seen has been signage, basically stating that this is for use only for use by residents of and members of that HOA. That signage puts people on notice, and then you can deal with it that way. As far as the safety, there were some questions about lights. So as Jack mentioned, we're not there yet. That type of planning, as far as really specifically getting into your street cross sections, what your streets look like, what your sidewalks look like, that is really something that happens at the site planning stage after, as Jack indicated, after the property is annexed and zoned. That's when those details happen. I will say, from the lighting standpoint, the city does have certain requirements and standards for, what would trigger the need for that. And typically it has to do with traffic volume. And I don't know that we have the type of traffic volume here that would warrant that. Again, though, I don't know. This is something that we do have standards that are addressed by our engineers, and but at the same time won't be addressed until the site planning stage. As far as speed limits and designs, these streets are local City of Longmont streets. They will be designed according to our local street standards and have posted speed limits that reflect that. So this is like any other City of Longmont development where they will need to meet our requirements. So with that, did I miss anything else, Jack or Kristen?
I don't think so. I mean, I guess just it's repetitive maybe, but if it were to be annexed, there would be a neighborhood meeting, another requirement for a neighborhood meeting with the concept plan that we would take to a preliminary plat. So there's these touchstones all along the way, besides the hearings. And I'm always available. I think you have my phone number. And I was thinking about lighting in terms of light, not signalization.
Okay, I was thinking they were talking about like the flashing beacon type lighting.
Yeah, well, and I think you're right. I think you're on target. So, but in either case, we would definitely want to take that up in terms of signalizing and also lighting. And I know we've gotten asked before on many occasions, or at least several times in the previous meetings, in each meeting, where are we going to come with construction? Where are we going to, and the bottom line is we're not going to go through Champion Greens, and we'll work with the city to have access off Airport Road. There's not enough room on 9th by the signal. We don't want to jam that up. But I think all of these things would be carefully thought through if we're involved with this at all. So I appreciate you guys coming out tonight. Thank you.
So, and we do, so we had some back and forth with Carla earlier. I do see we still have Carla, Jack, and Richard here with us. If you guys are still listening in and have a follow-up, you can have a follow-up for 1 minute because no one exceeded their time. Hit *9 to raise your hand. I'll give it a few seconds in case you're still watching the live stream and want to ask a follow-up. And if you do again, I'll set a timer for 1 minute. I'll give it a few seconds to wait. But if we don't hear anything, we'll go to our last slide. Okay, not seeing any follow-up. Jennifer, want to take it over?
Sure thing. Let's have our next slide. All right, so here is contact information. I've given you Kristen Cody's contact information since she is the project planner for this particular project. There's also Jack's contact information up there. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you have follow-up questions after the fact, feel free to reach out. This meeting will be posted on our city's YouTube channel. It has been recorded, so it will be available for future viewing if you want to go back and rewatch it, or if you have neighbors who weren't able to participate at this time. As we mentioned previously, our next steps are to get a resubmittal and go through DRC review process. And when this project is ready to go to public hearing, there will be another round of notices that go out, both mailed notices to everyone within a 1,000-foot radius, as well as posted signs that will tell you when the public hearing will be. I do not have, and I'm not able to really anticipate or predict exactly when that will be at this point. So just keep an eye out, and you'll know that you'll be getting a mailed notice if you are within that 1,000-foot radius for the notification. So with that, thank you so much. And as I indicated, here is our contact information. So feel free to reach out. Thank you.